Everyone always remembers about the primary focus of the update. However, there is one thing which they always forget about, and that's going to be the balance changes. Well, today we're going to be checking them out, and they are actually kind of significant compared to the last ones which we had with the BTR-80. But anyways, before the video starts, make sure to join the Discord server. I always talk about this, but yeah, anyway, let's just jump right into it. So the first set of changes which Gizmotech has actually done has to be to do with the boats. From what I noticed is that the USS Independence speed has went from 40 miles per hour or 40 knots to 43, and then with the zoom world it has also went to 43 too. As far as I know, I think there wasn't any other ship which actually got buffed in terms of speed. I think the USS Douglas kind of received a change. I'm not sure how much speed it previously had, but I swear it was exactly 40 knots. Other than this, these are all the changes which were made for the ships in this update. Next up, another thing which was changed is that the laser APC has been buffed in overall stats. So for example here, we're going to be testing its overall capabilities firstly against the F-35 with a cannon. As you guys can see, the fire rate has overall been buffed and the damage has also been increased, which is pretty good. It can actually kill the F-35 pretty quickly. Now in terms of killing helicopters, and here we're going to be testing it against the Super Hind, it's going to be also pretty good. It will once again run out of ammo insanely quickly, but I guess this will probably end up just being a lot better against ground vehicles and tanks, which is exactly what we're testing next. So now I'm going to be putting these vehicles stats to the test against the Lavad, which is one of the best ground vehicles in the game, and as you guys can see, after shooting a full burst, the Lavad is almost dead, and at the end I even missed a few shots. So honestly, I feel like this thing is going to be very good in terms of taking down ground vehicles. Now the most important part, which is going to be taking down tanks. As you guys can see, after a full burst, the Abrams X's health is pretty much just below half, which is actually pretty insane in my opinion, that this vehicle can do so much damage to it in such a short amount of time, let alone we haven't tested the rockets yet. So it's very weird that I'm actually testing this against planes. However, I always have to. Hitting trick shots with rockets is always pretty fun, and these rockets actually do have a unique mechanic, but as you guys can see right now, it is almost able to one-tap an F-35, meaning that on average, it will be able to take down pretty much every single plane in one shot, except for something like the F-35, which I showcase here. Once again, now taking a look at the helicopters, which for some reason I think Gizmotech has made a slight miscalculation here, and it hasn't actually been buffed against helicopters, but honestly, this is still fine. This vehicle isn't supposed to be anti-air, and you're more likely going to be hitting planes anyway. So now lastly, taking a look at the rocket damage on the Lavad, which is pretty much one of the best ground vehicles in the game, it will be able to almost kill it in 4 hits. However, once again, you do have the bonus DPS, which is provided to you throughout the main cannon. However, with this against the Abrams X, as you guys can clearly see, it will be able to get off at least 50% of its health. However, once again, you do also have the cannon, which will be able to make up for that. So if you do get a jump on most tanks, you're probably going to win if you end up hitting every shot, which is actually really good. However, this vehicle does also have a unique mechanic of its rockets actually not falling off as much as the distance goes on. Obviously, they have a little bit of a fall off. However, if you are going to be hitting planes out of the sky, I do still think you have a pretty good chance, just simply because of how well these rocket system works. Now lastly, probably the most meta-defining changes which were made in this update is that Gizmotech has basically changed the lock-on range for the Eurocopter, Apache, AH-1Z Viper, Invictus, and the Raider X, which were all helicopters which literally had 1000 stat lock-on range, but now that has been moved to exactly 1800 stats, and in my opinion, this is very meta-defining because it makes a lot of these vehicles that were necessarily not this good and weren't able to actually use their missiles now have even more bonus damage. However, in terms of the Eurocopter, Apache, and the Invictus, this is going to be helping a very huge ton in terms of air-to-air combat, because all of these have 8 missiles, which will now be allowing these vehicles to just have such higher brute force than what it had before, and it will be able to actually compete with much more powerful helicopters like the Apache Longbow, the Mi-24 Hind, the Viper, and also being able to take care of the Super Hind. I really do love these changes. I think this is pretty much the best change Gizmotech has actually done in this update. Anyway, for the time being, that's pretty much everything that was added in this brand new update. I do think these balance changes were extremely solid, and I really would love Gizmotech to keep listening. But I'm also seeing that he did watch some War Tycoon content, because Newt has made a video covering these problems, and all of them have pretty much just been fixed. I'm very glad that Gizmotech is watching the content on YouTube and actually taking notes. Anyway, see you guys next video. Have a great day, and thank you so much to my channel members, and make sure to join the Discord, guys. We are almost at 1000 members.